there, this is Maggie. Today I'm going to be covering some fun things I bet you haven't thought yet to do with fonts. And before we start, I'll tell you I'm going to be covering items both on mySewnet and on Premiere Plus 2. Now I have opened this particular screen in Premiere Plus 2 so you can see the lettering, and you can see over here it is going to look the same. The rest of this design, this is all motifs, and I'm looking at doing motifs as the next video that I put out. I'll say this is one of the FAF, I believe. It might not be. I'd have to recheck, but it's one of our motifs for a tree, and I did it in different sizes. And then I took these three and I turned them into one motif over here so that I could continue to do my little rows of trees easily. And then with motifs, I made the snowman, the house, and the tree one again, so I could repeat and play with it if I want to do a fabric out of it. And then I made that bottom row completely one big long motif, in case the thought here was I could do strips and put in 3 pieces of ribbon or something. And the other thing is, on a motif, I close the bottom on some, and I'm going to do it with these. And then once the bottom is closed and I had a shape, I could add fills. So this is the next class where I'll walk you through it, but for those of you who are advanced, it's something fun to think about. And today we're going to be covering the lettering. Now before I go there, I'm going to pop over and show you this. You'll see this little, I'm sure it's supposed to be something else. I call it a tulip. But you see this little red symbol. Now we're in mySewnet. And when you see the rows, you're in Premiere Plus 2. Now in mySewnet, I wanted to show you that if you have Premiere Plus 2 and I'm working in mySewnet, your commands are the same. This is on a Mac, so on a PC things will be in a slightly different place. You can watch the video because you have the same commands. Again, they're just in a different place. But if you have a Mac, they're in the same place. This is a palette. It's your color change. There's your color change. This is your single stitch. Here is your single stitch. This is your alignment stitch. There's your alignment, your stop. Your fill does look a little different, but it's your fill. Your line again looks a little different for satin line. And all the way down, this is the place point. So again, it's a little bit different looking than this one. And also they made some of the satin area look different and the satin column, but they're in the same place on your screen. Same thing with these commands. So easily you can follow along if I'm doing it in mySewnet. There will be no commands that I'm using today in mySewnet that you do not already possess in Premiere Plus 2. So I wanted you to see that. This is all, I am using the Create module or the Digitizing module, depending on which program you're in. So this video does require Ultra or Platinum level. Okay, now we can get going. I can close. This again is kind of our endpoint. I'm going to close that and come on into Embroidery. Now this is the mySewnet screen. I had changed the background so that if I pop over to Premiere Plus 2, it will have a white background. And in Premiere Plus 2 Embroidery, if you go into your font manager and you go to Quickfont. Now those of you who are on social media know that a lot of time we talk about Quickfont not coming out great, especially people wanting to do logos. Small type can be very difficult, and what happens is when they're choosing satin, your stitch length has to be so long. So if you think of trying to make a circle out of a bunch of straight sticks, it's going to be angular. Depending on how small the type is and how long the stitches are, those angles can make letters unreadable. So Tiny type is a difficult thing, and we have hints in our Facebook group for people who are interested in that. Now today we're going to do something called Sweetheart. There it is. So I'm doing Sweetheart. And it is for using in the software. Character Stat is extended. And as I said, this one has a commercial license. I don't sell. Those of you who sell should be aware that some of the sites you may be getting fonts from say commercial license, and then when you click on it, it will specifically say not for making embroidered fonts, that this particular version of Commercial Pod or whatever it is only for desktop use or some such. So if you sell, it is up to you to track down what the license is. Now you can see this one isn't as horrible as some come out on satin. You start to see where it gets a little angular and not pretty looking, or where things just close off and become a solid shape where you really wanted an opening and a little bit of an aside there. So I personally am not a fan of most lettering from Quickfont with a satin unless you're going really large. Now, what I am a fan on, quite crazily, is outline. Quickfont with outline almost always comes out perfectly for me, and I highly recommend this. Now you have your stitch options. I usually stick with the double stitch. Now a double stitch means the line's going to go up and it's going to come back down to where it started. So what that does mean is you will have a traveling stitch between each letter. And this, your choice might make a difference on what you're planning to do. If you choose a triple stitch, then your ending may be on the right side of the letter, depending on how the program does it. But I just, for the size I'm doing, I like a double stitch. It works for me, and I do not mind having a traveling stitch. I'm going to make this come out. It is okay to change it a little smaller. And I'll hit continue. So this looks okay for me, and I hit next. I don't want to return to start. This is sometimes you sit down and you're doing a whole bunch of fonts at once. This also looks really good, so I'm happy. I'm going to say this is done. And now I have Sweetheart Regular. Now, insert lettering and insert embroidery will give you slightly different effects, but the outcome will be the same. So this is basically your choice of what to do. I'm in the embroidery module. On the letter tab, I'm going to find my fonts. I don't have that many in this program. And we're going to do spring. And I'll bring the whole word in at 80, even though I will make the S larger. And there we go. I can actually close the gap, and neg 8 works good. So if you don't know about gap, I'll show you that. Take a good look there. We're going to get rid of it. F and delete. Neg. I'll even go to neg 9 and hit apply. And you see now they're much closer together. So gaps can go to the negative, and you can play with that even further. Okay, here I have what I am going to work with in Digitizing. So I can do a file export. I've got it set up as a VP3, and that's fine. This is video spring. And I'm putting it on the desktop so I can find it quickly. And I don't need the extra copy. And this is a different one. Since I promised at some point I would show you some other ones, This is Mystery font, and it's with contour fill, and the contour is set at 1.5 millimeters, and I usually make a note, but also you'll see, because this is digitizing, that if I just click on it and click on properties, it will show me how much the spacing is. The default came out pretty wide and didn't look as good. So this is a different one. We're doing file new. Although I could probably show you in that file, but we'll walk through insert. Okay, edit, insert embroidery. Go to desktop, it's the most recent one. And it comes in, and I wanted to show you how it comes in when you use insert embroidery. It comes in as a group, but you can still click on one part of that group and move it individually. And it gives you a nice little line between each letter. What it is, in this mode, it shows you the little beginning knot, a running stitch. It goes back and forth, and that's how your machine makes a knot. Then you have the letter and the knot. And this is what you see as you go through each piece. Now, in digitizing, so when I used insert letter, which you will see as we go on, because that's the one I'm going to walk through, it automatically came in with a color for each letter, and it didn't show me the knots. It does not mean the knots aren't there. Digitizing will provide a start and end knot for you. Not all the modules do, and we have more information about that in our Facebook group, but I did want to clarify this little. Now that the font is in the system, so to speak, you don't have to hit restart or anything. You can just go into digitizing, and I'm inserting them here, and it's insert lettering, and I've got Sweetheart at 80 because I was playing with this earlier, but if you needed to choose, you can go into the fonts that you have defined or the system fonts, and you can search on My Fonts. There it is, and we're sticking with it. It starts off at 30 because that's the smallest of the 30 millimeters, the sizes it made. And actually the S I want bigger, so we'll do that at 100. I might even make it a little bigger. And you'll see here's the S, and you hit insert. Now, how insert lettering works on the Mac is you have your capitals first, and then you scroll down to see your lowercase. Here's P, I want these at 80 millimeters, hit insert. And now I'm going to stop using this one and jump over to another one, unless you need one more, or insert. These are each their own little items, so I can move them around. You'll see there's a group, the color, and the double stitch. And in this part, the R, let's see, we'll close this for you. The R has the outline of the double stitch, but then it also has its hole as another one. And the same thing, the P has the outline, but then you'll see that these lines are different. And this is important once we get moving further. Now, I have added them in. And here I was playing with them. I put a different color for each because for me personally, I have some old habits that die hard, and I don't like the trimmer on my machine. But if you don't like the trimmer and you don't want stitches between your letters, what is the best way to do it? If it's only a few letters, if you make them each a different color in the software, you can stitch them out from one spool, but your machine will stop after each one, and you can trim it. So you don't have to worry about getting your your traveling lines or your jump stitches too close or too far, because your machine will stop and it will do its little knot, which mine does fine, and start the next one, and you just hit go. So this is something that's a holdover from those of us who've been sort of stitching for a long time, or just we don't trust the cutters on our machines. Let's see, I can move this. And for now, we'll say this looks good. I'm gonna fix, you can see in here, this one and this one. This does a little angle, so when you put them, either you're gonna get that angle on the outside or on the inside. So the easiest thing to do here is to delete some stitches so these two join. And actually, that's the P. It looks like the whole thing should come over a little bit. So they're lined up there. And I can click remove and get rid of that. Maybe that was too many. So let's go back here. Get rid of that one. Finish delete points, and I can just move this down. Move that down a little bit. I'm not quite sure why it's giving me a point there, but that is probably gonna look okay when it stitches, especially because I'm doing some fills. So I had lined these up by moving them. You just click on the group and you've got the whole bunch of whatever it took to make the letter. And what I wanted to show you, these are all double stitch. Here's the S, and I'm going to key on global properties. Instead of no fill, I'm actually going to end up doing multi-wave fill, but I wanted to show you a few of them that you can choose any fill you're happy with. So there's radial, and you get some things happening. I am going to move into how to clean up these inside parts by using cut hole. So we can fix this up, so don't panic about your letters. I more want to show you what some of the different fills can look like. Still on spiral. I think it did look good on one of the settings. There you go. So 20 something gives you a nice little fun fill. I'll kind of come out here so you can see it a little better. As you start to play, now as mentioned, for what I'm doing, going global properties, I am doing multi-wave fill, and I changed this to 14. And there we go. So we have the letters. And they're kind of arranged okay. Still, this S isn't quite where I want it. And I'll probably fuss around with this for quite a bit. There we go. And now the next thing to do is to fix up these 4 little places here. So for that, I'm going to zoom in. And the easiest thing to do is first to leave the problem in, because it's easy to trace it if you like what they did. See, this is it. And I could delete it, and it comes out, and then I can do my circle on my own. But if I undo that, this gives me a line that I can trace for hole. So I don't want the hole in this piece. This is the piece that needs the hole in it. So you click on the piece that needs the hole in it, and you click on hole. And the other thing to be aware of with hole, every now and then I found that mine didn't connect, and I somehow had not made my points all the way around. And when I did a test stitch out, there was a little blank space. So I do like to look at those really close. And I can do the finish drawing the hole. And then I can delete this thing to see how it looks. I started to go FN delete, but I think it's easier for you guys if I do. And you see how this is missing even though I went down. sometimes when I'm doing this, I look at the letter and it's like, it's cute because, you know, they make it uneven and whatever. But I was like, maybe I want that to be a little fatter. And I can change it, so maybe I'm going to bring this in a little bit, even though they made it kind of narrow. And there we go. So there is the hole, and now we have to do it over in these places on the P. And there's that one. But again, we don't want the hole in that. We want the big P here. The whole P is what we're cutting these items out of. So you have to click on the right thing. You don't want the shapes themselves. Those are already different shapes. And once you've had that, you can click on your hole. Zero in as close as you like. Finish the hole. Let's see, maybe I want mine to be a little... It's actually easier to check out these when you get rid of this. So I double click it to get, and you see this guy didn't quite finish up. So let's go to points. And again, this guy. Bring him up. This is okay. For whatever reason, I make mine a little bit fatter. And we've got one more over here. And I want another hole. That's going to be there. And I'm not going to make it as thin as theirs is on this side. And the part of this is taken from a font that was not designed to be stitched, but designed to be put on a computer. And I just like the stitched ones a little fatter in some areas than some of us give. And now let's see if that does it. And get rid of this guy. Properties. So you double click, delete object, and multi-wave fill. And again, do we want to bring this in a little bit and have kind of a smaller circle? And it is something that I can spend ages fussing around with this kind of thing, but you might get bored to tears, so we'll just show you that you just tap on it and drag to move a point. And there you go. So the P looks pretty good. And now the G. Now the last time we brought the G in, okay, it's doing the same thing. There's the big guy, and there's the part we're going to erase. So just click on the G, click on the hole, which you don't have to finish it out. You'll notice when I close it, it gives you the choice to keep it open or keep going, and I'll show you this time. Again, I'm not going to make it as skinny as this. I'm going to come inside the lines. You see, finish drawing the line would keep the point hole open. It would finish this section and I could keep going, or a finish point hole. And we're going to get rid of that piece. Properties, delete object. And I'm going to fix that up a little bit because I like to fuss with things. I have to click my point mover. I want this to be kind of rounded. Okay, that's not too bad. That's pretty good. And you'll see now that just in the time of this video, you can create some pretty cool effects. So I have just one more thing I want to slide in before I end this video. And this particular one is now set to radial fill. And I did want to show you that with radial fill, you can change where the point it radiates from. So let me go in again. So you see it starts here and it comes out. Now, if I want to, I can move my little orange dot. So when I'm playing with radial fill, which perhaps if you're doing a monogram or something, it might be something that you want to do with one of your capital letters, you can completely change the look of the letter by changing where you're putting your radial on each letter, because each one has its own setting. So that was one thing, but the other thing is to know that here we have the letters and they're all set up, each one is a unit. If you go to Object and you choose Break Apart, it will show you that it has a radial fill and a double stitch outline. And if you choose, you can insert a color change. And I was playing with this earlier, so there's a nice blue. And you can imagine if you have something you're wanting to do for July 4th or a different color scheme, maybe for Easter you're into purple and yellow, or for Christmas red and green, you can change this and also give yourself a nice little outline that's a different color. Now, if you do this, always remember that if what you're stitching on you can make, say, as hard as cardboard, maybe that's an exaggeration, but if you have a cotton and you can starch it, or if you have an iron-on backing, you have something that's a good stiff fabric, and I really don't mean like a board, outlines work very well. If you have something that's a knit and you have not put it on a sticky stabilizer, which I personally hate sticky stabilizers, or you have not done enough of an iron-on backing, your knit will move as the needle goes in and out, and your outline will come off. So if you play with outline, be sure to run a test stitch, at least if your outline is a different color than your lettering. You can see in this case, if it were a little bit off, people would not notice with the fills we're choosing in the letter. But if you start playing with the different color outline, it is something that you want to make sure you test on the type of material that your finished embroidery is going to be on. So there we go. I can go back to spring. This is the fun one. These aren't the colors I'll be doing it in, but I wanted you to see the different choices you could have. When you're first setting up in Quickfont your letters, you can also choose a fill at that point, but you can only choose what comes up under pattern fill on the Mac. We don't have these choices. I did play with a couple of motifs. Most of them are not small enough. You know, you're going to see a little bit of something in a line and a little bit of something. I was curious about doing different snowflakes for a winter font, and I didn't find anything I really liked. I would probably have to create my own motif with a shorter different distance between the lines of snowflakes or such to make it really work within lettering. But this is getting pretty long, so I am going to sign off here and say thank you for watching, and be sure to stop over in our Facebook group. If you have any questions about this video or anything to do with the software, come on over. We're happy to answer questions there. I don't catch them as much if you put it under the YouTube video. Questions there may be lost. I don't log into YouTube as often as Facebook. And the other thing is, if you're so inclined, please go ahead and subscribe. It just lets me know how many people are interested in watching my videos. So thanks